Time for another sucker down here, 1v1, but this time it is an odd man rush. It's a 2v1. And for this one, we go and catch up with part of the brain trust behind Hickory FC in Hickory, North Carolina, Lenore Ryan. Some of our folks know about L-R. I've seen a football game up there when Fred Goldsmith was the head coach. I know about the environment. But guys, it's Eric Levin, Thomas Deeley, owners and managing directors, plural, for the new franchise in the NPSL. Guys, thanks for hanging out for a 2v1.
Yeah, no. You said 2v1, but which direction is this? Are we on the defensive side or the offensive side?
I don't know. I always like to be on the offensive side, so maybe that's what we go.
And since we're audio, to be clear, who's the one with the strange accent? Since this is football, I guess I'm the one with the strange accent.
You probably are. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm the one with the birthright in Southern California, so it might be me.
Well, we'll save that conversation for another day.
I'm the out westie, so
That's right.
So, guys, what we like to do with these interviews is introduce what's going on to the rest of the football observing planet. And what I wanted to do was, who wants to answer the first question about how much thought and toil and tears and trouble went into this idea? Who gets to go first?
You want me to go?
You go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think the toil and the trouble, though, probably started with you just a little bit, but I'll tell the shortish version. So I met Tom as Tom came to work for me at Model Match, my day job, the way that I generate some income from time to time. And Tom was a young, aggressive, athletic-minded, smart guy that did great within our business, eventually moved on to some other things. But you came to me, you're former All-American, you come from Oxford, it's in your blood. And you came to me one day and said, do you think a semi-pro soccer team, which I know we dance between soccer and football, but I'll be the American here. The semi-pro soccer team, do you think it could be successful in Hickory? And this was pre-COVID. So we were watching the market, our town, sort of evolve. There were some cool things that were happening on the horizon. And we just talked about it from time to time. And then eventually, as we got sort of through COVID, you started putting together a high-level business plan. We would tweak it. Yep. And then we can talk about this later, but Hickory has done an amazing job of investing in this area. This is also a part of the country where I think a lot of people are starting to come to because it's got that small town feel, but with some big town things about it. And we just felt like the timing was right.
Absolutely. And, I'll add from a football perspective, I think with where it is at the moment in the country, I mean, the World Cup, 2026, Copa America 2024, both here, numbers on the rise on not only a local level, but also a national level. I think it was sort of something that just kind of fell into place timing wise, I would say.
Well, I'll tell you another story if you don't mind, real quick. This is relatively recent. And maybe it's not the toiling part of the story, but several weeks ago, I'm on the couch with my wife doing what we do at 8:30, which is watch television together because it's the only time we spend together, right? So that's where you solve all the family's problems. You're watching mindless television. Well, here's what was happening. First, we were watching the Beckham documentary, and my wife would argue, but maybe it was because of his beauty and not just because of the story, at least in her eyes anyway. So we're watching the Beckham documentary. Then we transitioned to Wrexham, and then we finished off the night with Ted Lasso. And when it was over, I looked at her and I said, do you think the timing is right? And we just both laughed about it.
Well, and you mentioned Oxford, and I was thinking he's from Anniston, Alabama. Yeah, that was
right.
But I mean,
Oxnard.
No, not Oxnard, California, or Oxford High School in Anniston, Alabama. The other Oxford, the one that's out east. So, Thomas, let me ask you this: you're the former player of the three of us here. How has the sport continued to grow and evolve, specifically there in Hickory, over the last, say, handful of years? Because we know that it has exploded in a franchise sense and a popularity sense in the Southeast. But from your perspective, having played the sport, and if I'm not mistaken, you're also a veteran of the NPSL, what's it been like for you to see how things have continued to grow and evolve?
Yeah, I think Hickory specific, looking at the numbers around it, from all the way from youth club, we have some youth clubs here where numbers are exceeding 1,000 in terms of enrollment, if you include both adult and on the child side right now. And those numbers are just increasing, tenfold year on year. The one of the local coaches and local college coach here, and the numbers at their camps that they're seeing are higher than what they've ever been. And then I never thought, living in Hickory, North Carolina, I would be driving down, one of the main roads and seeing pickup games occur all over the place. So with that, it's just surprising to me, because Hickory, North Carolina, take me back 5 years, I would not have seen this as a soccer town. But just culturally, it's just changing, so much and has become that.
Eric, why the NPSL? What attracted you?
Well, for me, the NPSL was the education that I got from Tom, to be totally honest with you. I would ask you stories about your playing days and sort of your experiences. And, when we would have those conversations, for me, it was an education into the tiered system of semi-pro and professional soccer in the United States. So, and then for us, I think the other component of the why is the entry opportunity within the NPSL was a make sense entry point for us. And it'll be fun to sort of see how that evolves.
And I'd add to that as well, John. I think they align with a very similar vision, to what we have, very community based, which is absolutely our number one focus, is providing, the community of Hickory, North Carolina, honestly, something to do on a Saturday night, a good family environment. That's what I'm most looking to as well. So I'd just add that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, Eric, you have said in the past, if my memory is correct and my quote is correct, that when you're playing golf, everybody's got their own swing. And while you can look at, there are other folks and their swing might be perfect and they can hit it 280 down the fairway straight, frankly, it doesn't matter what your backswing looks like. You could go from the top of your backswing and it could look like Jim Furyk. You could have a sandwich. It could look like a slap shot, but you can still do the same thing when you make impact, and it could still go 280 miles, 280 miles an hour and be right there with your playing partner if they've got the prettiest swing in the world. When it comes to Hickory FC's swing and how you want to approach things to where you're part of the NPSL, but you set yourself apart, what do you think your swing is going to look like?
Well, first of all, I'm honored that you found that quote somewhere buried in the podcast.
It is research.
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah, that was, I forgot about that one. And that is a good one. Although I think I might've stolen it from Tin Cup or something. Like, I'm sure it was a pop culture. That's a great question. And I think it's something that from a business model perspective, we need to constantly stay focused on. So, one of the first things that we did was quietly start to bring this idea to some core influencers and community members in our market. And 3 of them became partners of ours, Brock and William and Dylan. But then I think we look at partnerships like Lenore Ryan University and that partnership. I think we also look at partnerships like other businesses that clearly have an interest in the sport and how they can be involved. I think the community is going to define the swing. I think it's up to us to make sure that we keep it within some spectrum that puts us in a position for that swing to ultimately be successful. That's a great question, and something that I know we will keep our eyes on.
So then, Thomas, along those same lines, I know that there's a to-do list somewhere. And I mean, some of us, and I could just date myself with this reference. I mean, some of us, in the old days of the Palm Pilot, we'd pull the stylus out. We'd sit there and go like, oh, I've got an idea. You write it down, you jam the stylus back in your Palm Pilot, you put it away. I mean, it could be the notepad on the fridge at 2:30 in the morning where you got an idea and it's like, oh, yeah. And then you write it down so you don't forget it. It could be on a Google Doc someplace, or as I'm looking at the 2 of you there in Hickory, it could be on one of those big 6-foot by 8-foot dry erase boards that's got arrows and lines all over the place when it comes to a to-do list. Where is the Hickory FC to-do list? And what do you think the next thing is that you can cross off that to-do list right now?
Great question. I think it's funny you bring that up today, because here I am doing my day job today, and the Hickory FC ownership group chat is buzzing away, to the point I wonder if some of the others have full-time, day jobs, John. But what we were talking about today in that group chat was what's the 50-meter goal, what's the 100-meter goal, what's the 200-meter goal of what we have going on. And I think that the questions that we're seeing at the moment and that are coming from the community is we are, working on that brand, that logo. What is it going to be? I think that is top of mind, for us right now. What's something that's going to be super cool for us, that's going to, that's going to work with the community, that's going to be clear, and how does it represent Hickory and the surrounding areas? So I'd say, first and foremost, that's what we're sort of laser focused on right now, as well as just establishing relationships within the community. What great partnerships can we have, and we're just sort of opening the door on some of those conversations as well.
Because Eric, a lot of folks will sit there and go, oh yeah, the 2024 season, it's all the way over there. Not really.
No, that's right, but it's also not tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to balance that, which I love the question around what's next on the list, because the list is tremendously long, and the list is probably also loaded with things that really aren't priorities, but we feel like they should be priorities. So, in the short term, it's prioritizing that list. Tom nailed it. Our brand is going to be very important, creating excitement around that brand, tightening up relationships with coaching, tightening up relationships with game day management. And then also looking forward to the spring, which will then transition us into a much different to-do list. Right. But no, you nailed it, man. A lot of the fans might be saying, why bother? Why worry about it? We got a long way to go. Where we're acting like we have a game tomorrow. Exactly. Sometimes.
Eric Levin and Tom Deeley, owners and managing directors, part of the brain trust behind Hickory FC and one of the new franchises at the NPSL, hanging out with us for an odd man rush here in SDH. So, Tom, let me ask it this: when it comes to the brain trust, how many of your phones have been blowing up? How many of you have international minutes that you can manage when it comes to communication? Because I'm sure that when this announcement came online, or maybe there were folks that were kind of just hovering and listening to what was going on, or maybe they were tight with you, but on the other side of an ocean, perhaps, they're like, yeah, man, what's going on? How do we get involved? How much have the phones blown up, and how far reaching are these conversations of folks who either want to be involved in a front office sense, in an investment sense, in an interest sense, or even on the pitch? I mean, what has this been like?
Yeah, I mean, the announcement was almost a week ago now, last Tuesday, 3 p.m. And I would say that was a pretty crazy afternoon. I think at one point, after an hour or so, I tried to put my phone down. My wife picked it up probably an hour later, because I did leave it down, and it was 43 text messages, I believe. She may remember. Yeah, from all angles of the world. I mean, my background being in England, I had messages from folks in England. My family moved to New Zealand when I was 12. So there were messages coming in from that corner of the world. Lots of interested college coaches as well, in terms of what was going on and what could the opportunity be, which was all really wonderful stuff. And then I'll let Eric add about sort of the Hickory community, but there's been a tremendous amount of people wanting to come in and help out, and hey, what can we do? Which has just been really, really fantastic. I mean, that the community's bought into it so well.
It's been great. Tom's got that international connection that I don't have, especially as it relates to the sport specifically, but locally it's been fun for me to get hit up by people that I haven't talked to in a long time, to just saying yes to this. It's also been fun for me to go home in the evening and for my wife to tell me about messages that she's getting. And look, all of our wives are going to be very involved in this. I mean, we don't, as investors, as operators, the five of us don't do this on our own. It's a multiple of five. And, but to hear Nikki, my wife, comment that somebody that she walked across walking grabbed her and said, I'm so excited about what you guys are doing. And then I have a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old, Abe and Tate. And, that age, they're pretty cool, right? And they're super, involved in social media, but they couldn't have been more pumped up for this. And so it'd be cool if one of them was an influencer that could really springboard this thing. They're not quite there yet, but no, it's been so far the feedback has been fantastic.
And, Eric, at the same time, you're going to get some natural rivalries that are attached to this, whether it's Charlottetown Hops and their particular angle into this door here at the NP, and you got App FC and what they've been able to do there in Boone, filling a void with what is no longer there at Appalachian State, but you're getting that with App FC. You're getting some instant rivalries that are attached to this now, too.
Yeah, well, I'm dancing between the mastermind opportunities that we will have with the leadership of those teams, because I know that we can all make each other better through those types of masterminding. However, we have every intention of winning those games.
Oh, nothing like the early fire that's attached to all of it.
Let's go.
Have they told you when are they going to tell you what conference you're in and what your schedule is going to look like?
I think that's a great question. I would assume that we go out later this month, John, to the annual owners meeting in Sacramento, California, where I think the beginning conversations of conferences and scheduling will kind of begin. What I can assume is that Appalachian FC and Charlottetown Hops will be in our conference. So I think we can lock down those two rivalries, as you said. But beside that, we'll just have to sort of see how everything shapes out over the next couple of months. Will there be any more new teams, or, we'll just have to see.
So, Eric, what's the first question you want answered when you get into the door with those meetings?
Who's coming in second? Was that too blunt? Did I go too far?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with walking in the door like the gunslinger coming in at high noon. You sit there and you just go walking into the bar. You push both doors open. You just stand there with the silhouette of the sun coming behind you. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
And then my buddy Tom will slap me on the back of the head and said, "Seriously, man, can you not slow down just a little bit and let us make some friends first?"
Oh, I love it.
Look, I'm sort of serious when I say that, but we Tom and I, with what we do for a living, are very much we see the value of collaboration. We see the value of learning from other people that have more experience than we do in certain things. And so what I'm excited about is just picking the brains of those that have proven concept already and learning from them, not to replicate what they're doing, but John, to go back to what you were saying earlier, to help us define and redefine our swing.
So, Tom, then let me ask it this way, because with your phones blowing up and everybody wondering about what's going on, I know that both on the field and off, you guys are going to be looking for a particular kind of individual that will represent Hickory FC in the way that you want, but it's got to be a special kind of individual because these are first steps and you can't take a misstep coming out of the blocks. I know that you're looking for a specific kind of individual that will represent you well. What kind of individual is that?
I think what I'm looking for is probably what represents, Hickory as a community and us as an ownership group. So what I'd envision, John, is whether we're talking about a head coach or a player or, a member of staff, I think we want, someone blue collar that's willing to put in the work, willing to roll their sleeves up, is not afraid to make a mistake from time to time, has the grit and determination to sort of make success out of nothing. And I think that, and better than I do, Eric, but I think that sort of is described, Hickory. I mean, as a whole, it's a furniture industry we got going on here, man. It's we have the tavern and people built off, humbleness and creating something out of nothing. So I think that's what we're going to look for in all avenues, of what we're doing at the end of the day.
So, Eric, when you envision someone who's going to be either wearing the golf shirt, wearing the T-shirt, they've got the scarf wrapped around their neck, they're wearing the jersey and the kit, along with what Tom is saying, what are you looking for in an individual? Someone comes knocking on your door and it's like, yeah, man, this is great, I want to get involved. What's the litmus test for you?
Gosh, to keep it simple, maybe it's competitiveness, it's pride, and it's positivity. It's those things. I don't think that person has a particular look about them necessarily. I don't think they have a particular age about them necessarily. I know that certain sports, and really all sports, seem to have a demographic generally. I think something that would make us, and I know me, very proud is if I could see our kits, our jerseys, our t-shirts, our hats, our socks being worn by an incredibly diverse group of people. And look, the success of this club is going to be wildly determined by this community, and who this club is as the years go by is going to be determined by the feedback of this community. And that's something I'm real excited about.
Last question for you guys, and thanks for hanging out here and giving everybody the education about Hickory FC. When it comes to the ownership group, when it comes to the Fab Five, which one of you is the most competitive? Which one of you is the most driven? And which one of you is the one who's going to be the first one through the doors of the saloon, and with the silhouette behind you sitting there going, okay, who's second? So who fills those three slots of the group that?
Do you want to start the fight? Do you want to go ahead and start the fight? Because whatever you're getting ready to say is going to start the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the most competitive.
Yeah, that's definitely not true. I think what would have to answer this question, back in the old, Southeastern wrestling days, right? Where Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and those guys, right? Dusty Rhodes and all of them. You'd have to throw us in the ring and see who's standing last. But
now that I may not win. However, what I will do is let's take it to a football pitch, and then if we decide it by what we're actually going to do, then that would be okay.
Okay,
that would be tipping the scales for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. It's like so if we go outdoors, it's Deeley because it has to do with the sport. But if it's indoors, it's in a steel cage, and it's the 4 horsemen plus 1 trying to figure out who's going to come out of there with the championship belt. Am I getting this correct?
It kind of, but here, maybe this is a better way to describe it. And I'm not going to use a football club because that could maybe create conflict on this show since you're specific to football. But our quote ownership group intends on putting pressure on ourselves and delivering for the community as if we're building the next New York Yankees. And we're all competitive enough and driven enough and also diverse enough in our thought, to make that at least effort a reality on a daily basis. And what comes out on the other side is hopefully something the community can be super proud of.
Because everybody's finishing move is different. Could be a spine buster, could be a bionic elbow, could be a figure 4, could be anything off of the top rope, could be a stinger splash. That's just how this rolls. I know how this works.
I love it.
As someone who grew up on wrestling in the Southeast in that particular era, whether you're talking Continental, you're talking Mid-South, you're talking WCW, you're talking the NWA, you're talking Greensboro Coliseum, you're talking what's going on in Smoky Mountain at the Asheville Civic Center, you're talking about the Bilo Center in Greenville, South Carolina, the Omni in Atlanta. I know exactly where you're coming from.
John, I think you've got a new podcast in your future, my friend.
Well, actually, we do have kind of an alternate ego of ours. It's called Wrestling Down Here, and that is actually on the 280 character app where we can kind of put a mask over ourselves and sit there and say things in that kind of tone. Trust me, we're not above cutting the promo, sir. We know.
Well, there you can thank me later for setting up your promo. There you go.
All right, so who wants to cut the promo about keeping up to track with everything going on with Hickory FC? On the media that is social, how do they do it?
The easiest way to do it is go to our website first, hickoryfc.com. That'll connect you to all of our socials as well. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
You have to say X now.
I'm sorry, Elon, my buddy. X. Is absolutely, I don't want to upset Elon. He's probably listening right now.
Yeah. I thought they were the Fighting Phoenix, and I thought they were in the Southern Conference.
Yeah, all I know is that Mr. Musk is probably listening to us right now. Right. So I don't want to mess up his brand. X, Instagram, Facebook, go to the website, hickoryfc.com, sign up for the newsletter. I'll say that thing that my kids would kill me over. Like, subscribe. No, that's where you can find us.
Please like and subscribe. That's exactly what we say
right.
that all the time, guys. Eric Levin and Tom Deeley, part of the owners/managing director group at Hickory FC. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us for a 2v1. Thanks for opening the door to us, and looking forward to seeing how things go in the NPSL this season.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for what you do.
Cheers, John. Thank you.